Okay. Um. The form is ax squared plus bx plus c. What's the value of b in this case? 8. Show me with your fingers. It's 8. It's not 8x. B is in front of x. Don't include the x. A few of you did that. And it really complicates your life and makes you miserable. So don't think that. Okay. What should be happening? Okay. C would be 14, right? And A would be 1. You can't use these numbers here because this is equal to 0. Now, you should understand that I just added 2 to both sides to get this. Okay, so and then you plug it into the quadratic form. And once you've got your A, B, and C, everybody's plugging things in more or less correctly. So at this point, I'm not going to do that. I did it last time. I didn't work out the numbers. I just wrote them in. I do it this time, except I don't have room. Okay. But everybody's doing that part right. All right. So that's pretty good. Now, what's this mean? Well, give you a minute so you can talk here. What's the value of H? Okay, got a good answer there. The question that I asked is, what's the value of H for this function? This form is always the form. H is -4. Because there's a negative here. If you say H is 4, then you have to have x minus 4, and that's going to lead you on where you put the graph. Okay. H is -4, because if H is -4, then -4 is +4. Okay, so and it's not 8, it's -4, isn't it? So H is -4, K is -4. If I put my 4x4 square here with my parabola in it and the red dot, I don't know why I keep putting my chalk over here, but there it is. Okay, then got this. Okay, H is -4, so I've got to move this thing over 4 units. Remember, this is 4, so this distance has to equal this distance. And of course, this is 2, so this is going to be twice as far as this. So we've got H equals -4 and K equals -4. I don't have a good place to label that, but I'm saying K is -4. So the red dot goes here. And now I make my 4x4 rectangle. Which will be here. And I put my parabola into it. Now you want to be a little more careful. You want to maybe, mark the points and stuff like that. But you're just putting a copy of this in here. So this moves over here. Now that we just solved the equation where this is equal to -2. Okay. Y equals -2 goes here about halfway between 0 and -4, right? So -2 has to go right through the middle of this. And we can estimate the coordinates where this parabola gives you a value of -2. How do we estimate it? Well, we can go out the line here. This would be x. I gotta get there. X equals -4, right? What's this line? X equals what? Show me with your fingers. -2. Okay. So halfway between x equals -2 and x equals -4 would be x equals -3. What's our estimate of this coordinate here? It looks like it's a little more than halfway from x equals -3 to x equals -2. Okay. So that might be -2.3 maybe. That makes sense. This projection line here, and I'll go ahead and emphasize it by making it green. It looks like about -2.3, maybe even 2.4. Okay, does that make sense? Everybody see that? All right, and over here, this one, well, I could divide this up the same way. I can put my x equals -5 here and x equals -6 here. Looks like maybe x equals -5.4. Okay. Actually, it looks more like 5.5. Okay, well, the quadratic formula. This, by adding 2 to both sides, gets 0 where it should be, so that x equals -b, which is -8, plus or minus the square root of 8 squared, minus 4 times 1 times 14. All that divided by 2, which is then -8 plus or minus the square root of 8. It's 8 squared is 64. 4 times 14 is 56. 64 minus 56 is 8. Now, you might not be able to do that in your head, but maybe you can. But you probably are allowed to use a calculator so much that would it's unlikely that you'd be able to do that. Okay. But you can do it on paper. Okay. Well, that equals that's -8 plus or minus 2 times the square root of 2 over 2. If you don't know why the square root of 8 is 2 times the square root of 2, I'll just say it so you take my words from the video. 8 is 4 times 2. The square root of 4 is 2. So from the 4 that you got here, you got the 2, and you're still left with the square root of 2. Now that's -8 over 2 plus 2 square root of 2 over 2. which is -4 plus the square root plus or minus square root of 2. Square root of 2 the one significant figure, two significant figures, to one decimal place is 1.4. If you want it more accurate, 1.414. It's okay to use your calculator to do square roots. Okay. Okay, well, we get -5.4. That's from -4 minus 1.4. And -4 plus 1.4 is -2.6. Well, my 2.3 estimate was really pretty bad. Okay. Maybe could have redeemed myself by using 2.4, but that's what it is. Remember, this is I didn't even plot points to do this. This graph is a little lopsided to the right. It's a pretty good parabola, but it isn't perfect. If you draw a much better parabola, you have a very good chance of getting these right down to the 10th. Okay? Now, what we've seen now is you solve this equation, and it agrees fairly well with estimates that you can make from a carefully drawn graph. Now you have to know this, but we've seen this. We saw it last time. Okay. So we should be in pretty good shape to answer questions like this. Now, pause for a second. Hit Control Alt and it doesn't change screens. Control tabs. Okay, anyhow. Gonna do this. I've got a square here. And I'm gonna divide that up. About 16 squares away with me. Okay. And I'll go ahead and the x-axis here. And the y-axis here. My red dot here. My parabola. We understand all these are 4x4 square. Okay. What I have to do is something very much like this. Sketch a parabola in this square and sketch a parabola in this square. And then take the line y equals 5. Does that make sense? Does it make sense that y equals 5 ought to be here? Roughly. Okay, I want you to do a little more carefully than I did, but okay, I want you to draw better parabolas than I did. Then I just ask you to estimate the x coordinates of these points. Or one graph or another intersects a line y equals 5. And well, this looks like it's probably about x equals, here's 2, that's going to be 3. Here maybe x equals 5. Here maybe x equals, let's say there's 2, and 4 is 6, and 4 is 10. Maybe x equals 9 here, x equals 11 here. You could do those estimates, couldn't you? you could draw that and do the estimates. The problem says sketch 2 4x4 squares, one with a red dot at point that I give you, another with a red dot at another point. And I would recommend that you just start by taking a big square, dividing it into 16 little squares like this. It'll fit. Most of the graphs I ask you to do will fit, but sometimes they go this way and sometimes they go down this way. So you have to use common sense, but nothing, I don't think, I think you'd have that much trouble doing. Okay. I'm going to call this function for this graph h of x, and the function for this graph k of x. Then I ask you to write out the equation for h of x and the equation for k of x. Just a second. Okay, I pointed out that should have been 11 and 13. That's obvious. If you write out some numbers on here, you won't make the mistake I did. Okay, just be careful. You know how big these squares are. You can figure out these coordinates. Okay. So we have the h of x function and the k of x function. What's h of x equal to? What's k of x? What's the formula for h of x? What's the formula for k of x? See if you can write those down. I want to get formula for this. Then what I want to know is where the red dot is. Because this is a copy of this, right? It's got a red dot. I didn't put the red dot on there. You need to know to put the red dot on that. The red dot is always at the low point, always at the vertex. Okay. So for example, what are the coordinates of this point? Show me, what's the x coordinate? What's the y coordinate? 4. So, you know, if I was doing this, I'd mark 0.44. Okay. And over here, well, we've got to go 4 more and 4 more. So this is going to be 12.4. Okay. Which means that h of x is x minus 4 squared plus 4. Okay. And k of x is x minus 12 squared plus 4. Now, if you have the 12 and the 4 but got them backwards, well, you know, you were right, but you got something reversed. That's easy to fix. Okay. Now, so actually, I've got it up here. I'll write it in again. Okay. We can expand these. This one becomes x squared minus 8x plus 20 this becomes x squared minus 144x. 144x. Squared is 144, 2 times 12.4. Plus 148. You should go through the details of doing this because you need to get used to the algebra. Okay. So we'll put the picture together with the algebra. Now, show you algebra a little differently. We have the equation h of x equals 5. Here's h of x. Here's 5. Okay. It's y equals h of x. So h of x is equal to 5. Okay. I can solve this without using the quadratic formula. Just by writing this stuff. Okay. So we got x minus 4 squared plus 4 equals 5. Okay, there are some obvious things we could do to solve this. Now we could expand all this and then subtract 5 from both sides. Well, or just set this equal to 5 because we've already expanded it up here. Now, of course, you need to do arithmetic. Okay. We're going to do this without using the quadratic form. So another suggestion was subtract 5 from both sides. We got 0 on this side. Yeah, I'm glad you thought of that because you really need to do that to use the quadratic formula. It's got to be ax squared plus bx plus c equals 0, right? But we're not going to use a quadratic formula, so we don't need to do that. Okay. Actually, we're going to leave the 5 there, and we're going to subtract 4 from both sides. Okay, so we've got x minus 4 squared plus 4 and minus 4 equals 5 minus 4. Now, I know you like to put the minus 4 under this on both sides and add them. I discovered another reason in my last class why I don't want to do that. But the main reason now, because that's valid, you just got to do it right, is takes up less space. Okay. So this gives us x minus 4 squared equals 1. Now, what number can you square to get 1? Recording's on, so don't say it. Show me with the finger, okay? Okay, 1. Is that the only number you can square to get 1? Now there's another one. Negative 1. Now you square 0, you get 0. X minus 4 is either 1 or negative 1. That was something in here that didn't come out of my head, did it? If it did, we're all in trouble. Okay, not a problem. Okay. I mean, if x minus, yeah, what do you get when you square negative 1? Negative 1 times negative 1 is 1. Okay. Now you've probably been taught the solution of x squared equals something is plus or minus the square root. Okay. It's common sense. Okay. You don't need a rule. You just got to remember to do it. You got to notice that there are 2 numbers you can square to get any given number, any given positive number. Okay. Well, if x minus 4 equals 1, then what is x? It's 5. 5 minus 4 is 1. Now, formally, you add 4 to both sides to get that. You don't have room to do that, and presumably know that. x equals 5 or x equals 3. And that kind of goes up with my estimates. Okay. I just decided to do whole number estimates, and those were obvious. And it just turns out that this is a whole number. Now, if this was the line y equals 6, then what would be different? We'd have a 6 here. And that would give you a 2 here. And you'd have to do the square root of 2, plus or minus. Okay? Okay. All right. Now we do the same thing for this function. Okay, so what we've done, sketch y equals x minus h squared plus k for hk equal to 812. It's like the last problem in your assignment. We estimate g of x equals 10 and g of 11.3. Well, first we want to sketch this thing. So we sketch a grid of 4 squares by 4 squares. These are 4 by 4 squares. It's our standard. And we locate the point 812. Okay. Everybody should be able to do that. If not, you can always ask. Okay. We want to estimate g of x equal 10. Uh-oh. Sorry. G of x equals 10 would be here, and there'd be no solution, would there? Okay. G of x equals 14. Here's y equals 14. We're solving the equation g of x equals 14. Okay, so we estimate the coordinates. As usual, we estimate in whatever manner. And g of 11.3. Where's 11.3? Oh, g. $11.3 is out here. Okay, 9.3. Well, draw the line y equals 9.3. Here, or x. Here's x equals 8. Here's x equals 9. And let's say here's x equals 9.3. Here we estimate the points. Okay. And then you could solve this. You could set this equal to 14, expand it and use a quadratic formula, or solve it the way I just showed you, just without having to use a quadratic formula. Okay. Now, I didn't ask you to do those different solutions.